This is Red Hunt, and today's story starts off simple until the drama kicks in. I lost my job a few months ago due to mass layoffs and can't afford rent anymore, so I moved in with my best friend. He lives in a nice apartment in a small city. I have a puppy who stays with me. He is very energetic, and I take him to the dog park in our building and for a walk at least once a day. When I am busy with job applications or other commitments, I sometimes take him to the dog park and play fetch to help him burn off energy. Most of the other dogs in the building are friendly and play with my puppy. However, there is one large dog named Bosco who weighs about 100 pounds and is just under 2 years old. He is very energetic and jumps on people constantly, which seems to annoy everyone. He has jumped on me several times, leaving scratches on my thighs and once on my stomach that actually bled. I never complained because a month ago, his owner Gina fractured her fingers while trying to control him. She is always friendly and mentioned that she has been unemployed for over a year and is struggling financially. I genuinely feel bad for her. I usually try to avoid Bosco, especially when I have my 25-pound puppy with me, but he often runs over and jumps on him as well. 2 nights ago, I had to attend an event and came home late. My puppy still had a lot of energy, so I took him to the dog park to play fetch with a small ball that is about 1.5 inches wide because he cannot play with larger ones. While we were playing, Gina came into the park with Bosco. I immediately picked up the ball because I did not want Bosco to get it, as he is so big and rough. Gina let him off the leash and Bosco immediately started jumping on me with such intensity that I dropped the ball. He grabbed it and refused to let go. Both of us tried to get it from him while I was also trying to protect myself and my puppy. Gina could not control him well because of her injured hand, and eventually Bosco swallowed the ball. Now she's asking me to help pay for the surgery. I am not receiving unemployment benefits, have no savings, and I am currently borrowing money from a friend just to buy food. My parents live overseas and cannot help me financially. I told Gina that I cannot contribute, and now she is upset with me. Am I the antagonist for refusing to help? For real though, you did nothing to deserve that criticism, seriously. I mean, Gina should never let her dog off leash if he can't be controlled. It's wild that she's actually asking you for money after her dog attacked you and took something from your hands. You've talked to her about her dog jumping on people before, but she still hasn't trained him. It's not your fault her dog was feeling some type of way. Her financial mess doesn't change that. You have no responsibility for those vet bills. Honestly, it's kind of straight up wrong for her to shift the blame onto you, especially when she knows the risks. Just keep your distance and don't feel bad for standing your ground. Her dog's behavior is on her, not you. Would I be the jerk if I told my roommates not to share their problems with me anymore? I live with 3 roommates. One is 21 years old, another is 22 years old, and the third is 26 years old. I moved into this room at the start of last semester. This was the second year that the other 3 had been living together. Initially, they were very close, but the 22-year-old had a falling out with the other 2, primarily with the 26-year-old, although she is still on somewhat friendly terms with the 20-year-old. The conflicts were over trivial arguments that could have been resolved with a brief conversation. For instance, the arguments included complaints about noise from bags, opening windows when someone felt cold, or putting on pants too loudly in the morning. Since I moved in, the atmosphere has been quite tense. I felt sympathy for the 22-year-old because she was left alone in a 4-person room. I allowed her to express her grievances to me, hoping it would help her feel better. However, I have come to realize that she is not entirely innocent either. She is very sensitive, and if any small mistake occurs, she reacts in 2 ways. She either tells the other person in a rude manner or has someone else confront them on her behalf, even though she is an adult and could address it herself. For example, she once involved the dorm managers about shutting the windows instead of discussing it with the other 2. The other 2 roommates are not without fault either. I have been dealing with their issues for 6 months, and I am beginning to feel overwhelmed. On one hand, I feel bad for the 22-year-old, as the other 2 can be quite unkind to her. For instance, the 20-year-old recently planned her birthday party, invited everyone in the dorm in front of the 22-year-old, and intentionally excluded her. It was only after her mother intervened that she invited the 22-year-old, acknowledging her rudeness. On the other hand, the 22-year-old can be difficult as well. She often feels entitled and has conflicts with others in the dorm, while the other 2 are friendly with everyone except her. Additionally, she has been trying to manipulate me into discussing her problems with the other two instead of addressing them herself. This ongoing situation has negatively impacted my mental health, which was already struggling. So would I be wrong if I told both parties not to discuss their problems with me anymore? If not, how should I approach this conversation? I appreciate any advice. Honestly, you did nothing to deserve that criticism. You have every right to set your boundaries. If they keep bringing up their problems, just say no and stick to it. You don't have to play messenger or get dragged into their drama. I mean, R is trying to pull you into her issues, but that's her problem, not yours. Staying neutral is totally fine. You don't need to pick sides. It's okay to feel drained from listening to others. You can act busy or just be clear that you don't want to get involved. At the end of the day, you deserve peace. So focus on what makes you comfortable. Am I the jerk for being unsupportive of a decision to give birth? I have always wanted a sibling, but my parents had difficulties having a second child. My mother experienced 2 miscarriages. The first time, I was too young to understand what was happening. However, during the second miscarriage, when I was 9 years old, I witnessed my parents suffering, and I felt terrible for losing a sister. My mother is now pregnant again, but they have been informed that there is a risk of the baby having Down syndrome. About a week ago, my parents confirmed through a diagnostic test that my sibling does indeed have Down syndrome. They mentioned they are considering terminating the pregnancy and asked me to prepare for this possibility. I felt devastated about potentially losing a sibling again. Since then, I have been researching how to care for a person with Down syndrome and learned that it can be very challenging. It often comes with various health problems, and there is a high likelihood that the individual may never achieve independence. Initially, I found myself wishing they would choose to terminate the pregnancy. However, today they sat me down again and shared that they had decided to proceed with the birth. I felt deeply disappointed. Although I did not express my feelings at that moment, my parents could sense my distress and asked if I was unhappy with their decision. I felt it was important to be honest with them, as I feared that if I did not speak up now, it might be too late. I told them about my research and admitted that I wished they had chosen to terminate the pregnancy. We had a long conversation during which I expressed that while I had always wanted a sibling, I was uncertain about my ability to bond with this one. Upon hearing this, my mother began to cry. My father comforted her and asked me to give them some space. Later, my father came to my room and told me that I had hurt them, especially my mother, with my comments. He said I should have supported their decision. I asked him if that was truly their decision or just my mother's, as it felt more like the latter. He responded that his decision aligns with my mother's because she is the one who is pregnant, and I should have supported her choice. He insisted that I owe her a significant apology for my lack of support. I believe I had every right to express my feelings, especially after they asked me how I felt in the first place. Am I the antagonist in this situation? You did nothing to deserve that criticism. I mean, you're only 14. Your folks asked for your opinion, so they can't really feel some type of way when you give it honestly. It's honestly super shady for them to put that emotional weight on you. This is their call, and they shouldn't expect you to be their support system. It sounds like they might be hoping you'll take on caregiving later, but that's just too much to put on a kid. You deserve your own life, not just one where you're responsible for a sibling. Plus, planning for the future is a big deal. They really need to think about long-term care for your sibling. So be clear with them that you won't be taking on that role. They should be setting aside resources for your siblings' care when they're gone. Good luck navigating this. You're not in the wrong for being honest. Am I the jerk? Am I the asshole for no longer letting my sibling control my life? My younger sister struggled with drug abuse but quit when she found out she was pregnant. I was very worried about her, so I made her my #1 priority. When I was not working, I spent my time helping her in various ways. I took care of her child, my niece, and bought them whatever they needed, such as toys, food, car seats, and strollers. The father of the baby was not around much. When my sister started dating her now husband, she became unkind to me. She would do fun things with him and only wanted me around to watch my niece or keep her company when he was working. However, when he was present, she treated me as if I were nothing to her. She would tell me that he was her person and that she would choose him over me every time, which really hurt my feelings. As a result, I distanced myself and spent less time with her for about a year. I eventually moved back in with my mother from my apartment because I was tired of living alone. My sister has since had 2 more children, one from her husband's previous relationship, and she is currently pregnant. She has taken this opportunity to leave my niece with me whenever I am home and not going to school or working. After spending my early 20s helping her, I decided it was time to start dating and focus on my own life. I never had time to date before because I spent all my free time helping her. Whenever I tried to date, she would find some reason for me to cancel and help her instead. Now I am almost 30 and have decided not to make her my priority anymore, which she is not happy about. I met an amazing man, and we have been together for a couple of months. However, every time I spend time with him, my sister tries to come up with reasons for me to cancel. I tell her that she has our mother to help her and that her husband is available, so she does not need me as much anymore. She becomes angry and tells me I am a terrible sister and a terrible aunt. She also claims that I will be a terrible mother when I have my own children because I will not help her anymore. At times, she even blames my boyfriend, saying he is changing me into someone she does not like. This situation upsets me. I just want to be sisters and friends and for everyone to get along without me having to do everything for her. However, she is struggling with no longer being my number one priority. I feel lost regarding what to do next and often wonder if I am the one at fault for not always helping her. She feels like a full-time job and does not want me to have my own family, which has been my dream since I was young. I feel resentment towards her because she has everything I have ever wanted, and she cannot seem to let me pursue the same for myself so we can all be happy. She even suggested that I should live in a mother-in-law suite and take care of her children forever, not wanting me to have my own family. I do not know what to do anymore. Am I the one in the wrong? You're definitely not the jerk here. I mean, you really stepped up for your sister when she needed it, giving her your time and energy. But now it feels like she's trying to pull a power move on you because she's losing that grip. Honestly, playing the victim isn't love, it's entitlement. Wanting a life of your own. That's totally okay. You deserve a relationship and a future that don't revolve around her. So don't let her manipulate you or mess up your other relationships. She's heated because she lost her constant babysitter, and you know how selfish people can be. They'll always throw shade when they don't get their way. Just remember, her kids are her responsibility. Help when you can, but do it on your terms. It's absolutely okay to set boundaries and focus on yourself. Am I the jerk for demanding an apology from a sales manager who's going through a lot? I would appreciate some advice from more experienced professionals. I am a 22-year-old female currently completing a 6-month remote internship at a small family-owned business in marketing. While I do not have extensive corporate experience, I previously ran my own business, although I did not handle operations. I am trying to learn and grow in my current role. This morning, I offered to help with lead generation. Our sales manager currently sends about 25 emails a day, which seemed low to me based on my previous role. I thought I could assist with this task. However, the sales manager suggested that I should follow up on LinkedIn, connect with leads, and ask if they had seen the email. This suggestion did not sit well with me. The businesses we are targeting are established local companies, and it felt more sales-oriented than marketing-focused. Since it would be through my personal account, I did not feel experienced or confident in executing this efficiently, and I already had a lot on my plate. Additionally, I was concerned that this could impact my future opportunities. I expressed my feelings politely, but the sales manager pushed back and offered advice that I had not requested. I smiled and nodded, as I have learned to do as a younger person in the workplace. Fortunately, my manager, the managing director, offered a workaround. I could use his account instead, which I thought resolved the issue. Later, the managing director encouraged me to check in with the sales manager again to seek his advice. I thought it might still be helpful, but the conversation quickly took a different direction. I recorded the conversation because I have had past experiences where it was his word against mine, and this has become a habit. The sales manager began telling me about all the things he has accomplished and why he believes he has more experience. For context, I have built a successful e-commerce brand that has worked with celebrities and has global customers, but I have remained humble. I felt as though he was trying to use his seniority to pressure me into agreeing that not doing outreach from my personal LinkedIn was unreasonable. I calmly reiterated that I had already come to an agreement with the managing director and that I was not comfortable doing cold outreach in that manner. He raised his voice and questioned, "What do you mean by salesy?" "How is it salesy?" I clarified that we were reaching out cold to promote an event, even if it is free, and that I did not feel equipped to handle it. Eventually, he backed off and said he would take care of it, but then added, "Well, I will be talking to the managing director about this," which felt like a passive-aggressive comment. I reminded him that we had already resolved it earlier. After the conversation, I informed the managing director so that he heard it from me first. I listened to the recording and I was polite throughout. However, the managing director advised me to let it go because the sales manager is going through personal challenges, specifically a custody battle. I understand that he is struggling, but I still feel shaken. I remained polite and tried to de-escalate the situation, and I ended up crying afterward due to my anxiety. The managing director told me to be the bigger person, but I wish he had validated my feelings. I do not want any drama. I am willing to let it go with an apology. Would I be unreasonable for wanting that? For sure, look, it seems like you need to dial it back a bit. I mean, sure, you had every right to say no to using your personal LinkedIn for work, and it's good that you communicated that. But you've also got to realize your position as an intern. Criticizing the sales manager's approach, even if you don't agree with it, probably wasn't the best move. Offering help and then backing out. Yeah, that just makes you look inconsistent. Plus, getting low-key upset with senior colleagues who are trying to give you advice. That's a bit off. You're there to learn, so listening is key. Honestly, this mess feels like it could have been avoided if you just kept your head down and followed the flow for now. Being an intern means playing the game, not changing the rules. Just remember, it's all part of the learning process. Aitah for not calling my sibling on their birthday and defending it. I am a 23-year-old female and my sister is a 16-year-old female. We are currently living in separate states because I moved out. Although we are not extremely close due to our age difference, we do get along fairly well. Recently, it was my sister's birthday. My mother reminded me that I needed to call my sister to wish her a happy birthday. I personally believe that birthday calls are insincere. I think they often come across as rehearsed and disingenuous. I prefer to send a text message, allowing the person to respond at their own pace since it is their special day and they usually have other things going on. I told my mother I would call my sister, which was not true, but I did not want to explain my reasoning to her because she had already dismissed my views as inappropriate. Instead, I texted my sister and wished her a happy birthday. She replied a few minutes later, thanking me and acknowledging a virtual gift I had sent her earlier. We exchanged messages, laughing and joking, and everything seemed fine. However, the next morning, my mother sent me a message expressing her discontent with my behavior. She claimed that I was being rude for not calling and that my sister was visibly disappointed. This confused me, so I reached out to my sister to see if she was upset that I did not call. She assured me that she was not upset and shared the same opinion about birthday calls as I did. It seemed my mother had misled me to make me feel guilty about not following her suggestion. I confronted her about it and our text conversation went as follows. Me, you know my sister and I are on the same page about birthday phone calls. Mother, if that's the case, I wonder why she was disappointed. Me, oh, was she? Mother, I asked her if she had heard from you before we went out to dinner, and she said no. She did not make a big deal out of it, but she looked disappointed and surprised. I would not have asked her, but since I reminded you twice that you were going to call her, I assumed you would have. Imagine how you would feel if your birthday came and went and no one called or messaged you. That would probably not feel very nice. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. There was no need to provide examples as if I needed a reminder to be empathetic on my sister's birthday. I contacted her and we are now laughing about how silly the whole thing was. You made me worry that I had hurt my sister's feelings when, in reality, I did not. Mothers, you weren't worried or you would not have done that. So I am not concerned if it rubbed you the wrong way. It is typical of you to not take any responsibility for your actions. Now you have turned this into something it did not need to be. You asked if I was still angry and I said no. Your sister was laughing about your messages, so she was fine and so was I. You say some odd things sometimes. Mother, rolling, face, that was the end of the conversation. I am uncertain how to interpret this situation. My sister and I both think that my mother may be upset about something unrelated and is taking it out on me, which she tends to do regularly. Alternatively, could she be justified in her feelings? So your mom texted instead of calling on your birthday. That's kind of interesting. Honestly, it seems like she's trying to pull some power move from a distance and then got all defensive when you called her out. I totally get it, birthday calls can be a drag when you're older. I mean, it's nice when you're a kid, but as an adult, it just feels like this pressure to reply, you know. A simple text or a funny meme would work way better. Plus, taking your birthday off Facebook. That's a solid move. Fewer messages can really lighten the load. You do you, and if she can't understand that, well, it's on her. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.